Okay, hello students. Between a basket full of 8 mangoes and that full of 2 mangoes, which will you prefer? This or that? I personally prefer the one full of 8 mangoes because it will satisfy me more. That tells us that 8 is greater than 2. To compare natural numbers, it's simple to know which one is greater than the other. But for fractions, it's not easy to identify which fraction is greater than the other. For example, if you have 3 over 4 and 1 over 3, how will you know which fraction is greater than the other? Mathematics have created a method that will help you to identify which fraction is greater or lesser than the other. So if you have 2 or more fractions, all you need to do is change them to improper fraction in case you have a mixed fraction among them. After changing it to an improper fraction, the next thing to do is to find a common denominator for them. After finding a common denominator, what you do is to rewrite the fraction as equivalent fractions. When you do that, then you can now order them. I'll take it again. You change the mixed fractions to improper fraction. You find a common denominator for all the fractions. You write the fractions as equivalent fractions, after which you order the fractions. I want you to take note that for like fractions, to know which is greater is just to look at the size of the numerator. The bigger the numerator, the larger the fraction. For example, if you have 1 over 5 and 3 over 5, since the denominators are the same, you just go to the numerator. Which numerator is greater? 3. That means 3 over 5 is greater than 1 over 5. But for unlike fractions, you cannot easily know which is greater. You have to go through these procedures. So let us find which fraction is greater between 3 over 4 and 1 over 3. Like we said, the first thing to do is to change to improper fraction. But there is no mixed fraction here, so you just go straight to the second step, which is to find a common denominator. Now let's learn how to find the least common denominator. You can do that by finding the least common multiple. You put the numbers side by side, 3 and 4. What is their common factor? Do they have common factors? 3 and 4? No, so you divide it by any of the numbers. So let's start with 3. How many times will 3 divide 4? It cannot divide it without a remainder, so you bring down 4. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. So the next number is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Then you bring down the other one. Now you have 1. Now you can multiply the common factors. 3 and 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. We found a common denominator. The common denominator is 12. The next step is we are going to rewrite them as equivalent fractions. Now take note, we said that to find an equivalent fraction, you have to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. Now you want the denominators to be 12. And the first fraction, the denominator is 4 and the second one is 3. What number will you multiply by 4 to give you a common denominator of 12? What number will you multiply by 4? That is 3. Another way to do that is to divide the common denominator by one of the denominators. So for 4, we divide 12 by 4, it will give us 3. So 4 times 3 will give us 12. And for the second one, we have 3. So when we divide 12 by 3, it will give us 4. So for the second fraction, you say 3 multiplied by 4. For the first fraction, we need a common denominator of 12. So the number to multiply up and down is 3. So we have, for the numerator, 3 times 3 will give us 9, and 4 times 3 will give us 12. The second one, we have 1 over 3. We're multiplying numerator and denominator by 4. So 1 times 4 is 4, and then 3 times 4 will be 12. Now we found a common denominator, which is 12. For the first fraction, we now have 9 over 12, and the second one will have 4 over 12. Having done that, you check which of the fraction have the greater numerator. Obviously 9 over 12 is greater than 4 over 12. So 9 over 12 is greater. That means 3 over 4 is greater than 1 over 3. Let me review the steps again. You change to improper fraction. You find the least common denominator. You rewrite the fractions as equivalent fractions, after which you order the fractions. So that's what we've done. We've found a common denominator, we've changed them to equivalent fractions, and now we've ordered the fraction. Let's take one more example. Now you have 2/9 and 1/3. We want to know which of these two fractions is greater. The first step is to find the least common denominator. We can do that by finding the lowest common multiple. So we have 9 and 3. We divide them by their common factors. What's the common factor between 9 and 3? That is 3. So you have 9 and 3. We'll write 3 outside. So how many times will 3 divide 9? Is 3. Now how many times will 3 divide 3? Is 1. Now we have 3 left. So we have 3 into 3, 1. And then you bring down the other one. So the common factors is 3 and 3. So you multiply them. You have 3 times 3 will give us 9. We found the least common denominator, which is 9. Now we want to change these two fractions to equivalent fractions. And like we said, we multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. In order to have 9 as a common denominator at this first fraction, what number will you multiply to 9 that will still give you 9? That is 1. That means the numerator and the denominator will be multiplied by 1. So we have 2 times 1 is 2 and 9 times 1 is still 9. So for the first fraction, we have 2/9. And for the second fraction, in order to have 9 for the denominator, what will you multiply by 3 to give you 9? That is 3. So you multiply the numerator and the denominator by 3. So you have 1 multiplied by 3 and 3 multiplied by 3. So you have 3/9. Now let's check which of the fractions have the greater numerator. You have 2/9 and 3/9. Obviously 3/9 is greater. That means 1/3 is greater than 2/9. In this last example, we'll be ordering 3 fractions. The procedure is still the same. So let us begin. Now you have 1/3, 1/2 and 1/5. The first thing is to find a common denominator for all the denominators. So you have 3, 2 and 5. Let's find the least common multiple. We divide it by a common factor. No common factor, so let's start with 2. 2 cannot divide 3 without a remainder, so is 2 into 3 will bring down the 3, and 2 into 2 will have 1, then we'll bring down 5. Let's use 3 as the next one. 3 into 3 is 1, then we'll bring down this 1, then we'll bring down 5. Then finally we use 5. 5 into 1 will bring down 1, and we'll bring down this 1, then 5 into 5 is 1. Now that we have 1 down here, we'll multiply all the common factors together, which is 2 times 3 times 5. That's 6 times 5, which is 30. Now the lowest common multiple is 30. We now rewrite all these fractions as equivalent fractions. Now let's start with 1/3. What number multiplied by 3 will give us 30? That is 10. That means we multiply the numerator and the denominator by 10. So you have 1 times 10 over 3 times 10. That will give us 10/30. For the second one, we have 1/2. What number will you multiply by 2 to give you 30? That is 15. So we're multiplying the numerator and denominator by 15. So you have 15 times 1 and 15 times 2. That will be 15/30. And finally, we have 1/5. What number multiplied by 5 will give us 30 for the denominator? Okay, that is 6. So we have 6 for the numerator. 1 times 6 is 6, and then 5 times 6 is 30. So the new fractions now are 10/30, 15/30, and 6/30. Now finally, let's order all of them. So obviously 15/30 is bigger, so we have 15/30, 10/30, and 6/30. That means 1/2 is greater than 1/3 and 1/5. In this lesson, we've learned the steps we use in order to find which fraction is greater. You find the least common denominator, you write them as equivalent fractions, after which you order the fractions. Stay tuned for more interesting lessons.